any chance of maybe networking with you? Sort of match you up that way. Also, do you have any work that's in the festival this year? Give it a shout out to that, plug it a little bit, and just tell us a little bit more about what you're working on.
Hello, I'm Steele. You can call me Steele. I'm here for my screenplay, Chemical Society, from Las Vegas, Nevada. And I've written four feature films and one short film. And I plan on shooting my short film, making my directorial debut in October in Lexington, Kentucky.
Okay, I'm Amy McCorkle, and I have my script, The Other Side, was here this year, and I've got a feature film I'll be shooting in Atlanta, Assassin's Redemption, and an off-Broadway play in New York in October.
I'm JoAnn Hess. I'm creative executive and a screenwriter. I don't have anything in the festival here. I am a local, even though I work with a production company in the UK and Australia. I have a film of mine just had a theatrical release in London in March, and we're currently working on two large-scale projects, hopefully to film beginning of next year.
Hello, I'm Andrew Stussie. I'm from Lawrence, Kansas. I've written two features, one an action comedy parody, and the other one a grounded superhero feature. I've written two horror shorts, and I'm currently working on a vampire horror story set at the end of World War II, and a short comedy about a guy who has to win a dance-off against death if he wants to stay alive.
Short comedy.
I am Shane Thompson. I am a screenwriter and actor based in Columbus, Ohio. I have a feature-length screenplay in War Hotel this year. In War Hotel this year, called The Dire Curse. It is in pre-production right now, and I also have a short script that I wrote called The First Day of School that is also in pre-production. We are hoping to film it around October this year.
Hey, I'm Jason Tostevin. I'm also from Columbus. I'm a genre writer-director, and I also run Nightmares Film Festival. Appreciate the shout out.
Okay, and we're all sort of adults here, so if you have a question, you don't need to raise your hand. Just be polite, but maybe somebody will say something, and you're like, hey, I want to drill in on that a little bit. Just go right ahead and just shout it out. All right? Let's start with one of the things I think, you can learn a lot from your failures. So everybody wants to talk about their successes, but let's talk about your failures. Think about what some of the things that maybe you did, maybe it's one of the earlier things you wrote, and now you look back on that and you're like, okay, that was a good first start, or okay, I had good intentions, but I missed something about it that just didn't make it right. And I know I'll give you a second to do that, but think about something that, what I learned from myself, from my own writing, so that the rest of us can learn from your mistakes as well. Can you think of something like that? Just start with that.
Yeah. So in high school and college, I liked to write comedies a lot, just because dramatic writing doesn't really come as natural to me. I try to be more positive, I guess, the way to say it. And in a lot of my early comedies, I felt like I would have a few good jokes here and there, but I would sometimes get a little sidetracked by going for like random zany humor that doesn't really add to the plot or move the story forward. So one of the things I would recommend if you are writing something comedic, or even just writing a lighthearted scene in a more serious story, is make sure that the comedy serves the plot instead of the other way around.
Something else?
With me, it was learning to outline. I found that I wasted an incredible amount of time on rewrites and reworking by not structuring the project, structuring the storyline out ahead of time. Because it's amazing how much you can find where a plot drags or doesn't work and can be fixable. You can fix 10 pages a lot easier than you could fix 120. So from now on, I do that absolutely first. I really spend a lot of time with the outline and make sure that it flows correctly. And then when it comes to writing, it's almost like a breeze, and it cuts down my rewrites tremendously. One or two, I'm done.
That pretty much true with all of you? You do the outline first?
I mean, I feel like each writer has their own process, but it is, I think, a general rule of thumb that, especially writing a feature script, it's going to be much more beneficial to you if you outline it scene by scene. And I would also recommend, I think every script I've ever written, as soon as you're done writing it with the first draft, you're really gung-ho and excited about it. Put it on the back burner for a couple months, give it another read. I've even gone as far as reading features that I've written a couple years later. I'm like, ooh. So it's like, we're all going to be our own worst critics, I feel like, not just writers, just creatives in general. And I just think it's really good to try to find that balance between knowing when to let the project go and also knowing when to make those tweaks and adjustments to the final version.
And to piggyback on that, like, I really do recommend stepping away and having other people read it during that time frame that are not guest people, to tell you and ask them for like what's boring and what could be better and those sorts of things, because getting those opinions is really helpful. And I'm with the mindset that a screenplay is never finished until it's on the screen. So don't think that your screenplay is the best of the best and that you don't need to change anything. It's going to be constant changes and constant rewrites. And also with the outline, I find the outline process is harder than the screenwriting process. Because I feel like once you have your outline and you're starting your screenplay, you can just follow that as you like tell your story, and so it's you can just let things flow and as you're following that outline. And sometimes your outline changes as you're writing, but I find the outline to be a lot more taxing than writing the screenplay. I don't know if that's just me, but
For me, the hardest thing to learn was not to write like a director and like put directions in the script, because if you're not the director, they don't want to see, they want to have that experience and job for themselves, because some directors just want to direct, and some writers just want to and not to say just, but they want to wear one hat. And if you are the screenwriter, you are servicing the story, and and ultimately you are servicing the other people who are going to be on the team that's going to breathe life into your script. And also I had to learn I would limit weather scenes, because that if you're indie, especially if you're indie, if you say, oh, it's raining, oh, it's snowing, you may be able to pull it off, but you don't want to, what a producer is going to see is money, that costs money, and they may not have the money to do that. So that's what I had to learn, I would say.
I also know actors feel the same way. They don't want the writer to tell them how to act. If they start seeing a lot of that description in there, they start getting frustrated. Like, you do your job, I'll do mine. Same thing for actors. I've got a ton of ideas for scripts, short scripts, feature scripts. How do you know when you come across a good idea that you want to commit all that time and energy into to write a feature script or a short? How do you know you have a good idea?
you can't stop thinking about it if it's just way in your head, and that usually means that you're being drawn to it, and it's I usually kind of just lean into that feeling, and also like I don't know, if you're, I've started so many outlines and I'm like whatever, and I've even tried writing a screenplay of just like based on feeling with no outline, and I usually stop like 60 pages in, I'm like and like I'm just over it. But if you're just constantly thinking about it, you can't stop thinking about the characters when you're creating a story in your head, like it usually means that that's the one you should write.
So you fall in love with it.
Yeah,
Anybody else?
I would say, I guess as you start writing, how easy do the words come out? Like I wrote Don't Touch That Dial, that was my festival plug because I forgot to do it earlier. When I wrote Don't Touch That Dial, it's about 20-something pages, and it only took like a day or two to do the first draft. Because once I had the idea in my head, the words just kind of flowed naturally, and it was very dialogue heavy, so like boom, 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 boom. Oh, it's been a week and I finished the first draft, great. And then I sat on it and waited. But if you're sitting at your computer knowing what you need to type and the words just don't come out, that might be a situation where you're like, maybe I need to switch projects for a little bit and see if the words come later.
Anybody else?
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off that a little bit, I would say if you have an idea, write it all. Because the writers that I know who have had the most success are writing every day. And if you have an idea, see how it translates, because you may not know until you start putting the words on the paper. I think one of the most inspirational things that I have ever seen is a friend of mine named Greg Sisko, who's a very talented screenwriter. We were at a festival together once and he just disappeared for like a couple hours. And when he got back, I asked him where he went. And he said, well, I write at least an hour every day, no matter what. And that's always stuck with me because sometimes it's hard to get that motivation. I know I'm definitely, right now this is more of a do as I say, not as I do, because I'm not writing every day and I should be. So sometimes even if we just have to force ourselves to do it and then see how it materializes on the page.
And writing is not always writing. It can be researching the location that you're writing in and writing backstories of your characters that aren't going to make it into the screenplay. Creating a music playlist that aligns with the movie that you're writing. It doesn't have to be, in my opinion, it doesn't have to be actual writing. Writing screenplays is not just the physical act of writing and final draft or whatever. It's the whole thing.
I highly recommend that you pitch to people.
Yes.
Pitch your concept to people and see their facial reaction to it. Because when people are interested or think it's cool, they will immediately, it'll come out of their face. I have a friend who actually, in a grocery store line, will pitch concepts to strangers just to see their reaction. And if they're like interested in it, then it's something maybe to go forward to it. If people don't react to it, maybe you need to tweak it a little more, or think a little bit more on it. But, you know, you're writing for an audience.
Yeah, that's how do the rest of you, how do you get feedback? Whether it's an idea, whether you have a script, what's your process for getting feedback on it? So you know if you have a good idea.
I mean, I think you reach out to your friends who are fellow writers. I think the best feedback I've ever gotten is from fellow screenwriters. So once you start going to festivals and meeting people and becoming friends with other really amazing writers, like I'm looking out here and there's a ton of very talented writers in the audience right now. Writers are going to give you the best notes and just send it to everyone and take that feedback.
I would also add that there is some value if you have people who are just like knowledgeable on the subject or fans of the thing you're writing in general, even if they're not specifically writers. Like if you have a best friend who you know is a massive horror movie fan and he wrote a horror movie script, even if they're not quite as well versed in the reading style or reading it, it'd be good to have their input. Or if you're doing a historical drama and you have a grandparent who is, part of that war or part of that conflict or whatever you're writing about, it might be good to have their input even if they're not 100% in the loop of how the writing style goes.
Anybody else? How do you get your feedback? Other than accosting people in the grocery store?
I work for hire, so my producers are very, very verbal on the feedback, whether they like it or not. So, I think that you really want to have people that you trust are going to give you constructive and open feedback, all right? Not just, we love this. You really need somebody who's willing to tell you to your face, what works and what really doesn't work. Because when you're out there, in the studios and pitching this and working, with them, they're going to tell you what it is and what it isn't. And you had to have your big pants on because.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have to be able to take that feedback and work with that feedback if, you're looking to do this professionally.
And don't get defensive, because they're just trying to make it better. And you don't have to take every, I mean, maybe for hire you do, but you don't have to take every ounce of feedback if you completely disagree with it. That's some advice that I've gotten from agents, because I was asking them that specific question, and they said you pick and choose what you think will work best for the script. So you don't have to take everything, every opinion into consideration if it's something that you truly believe in.
I would say, I've been talking to a bigger talent manager, and he read, I submitted, I got through the query miracle, I got through the query process. He read it, he said, this is what's wrong. He goes, with your script, and this is why it's not getting through from indie to studio. And he said, this is what's wrong with it, and he spent 45 minutes telling me what was wrong with my script. But at the end of it, he said, but, I was like, thank God. But the meat is on the bones. But this is what you need to do. It's very specific what you're doing between indie and what you're doing between studio. And like he said, don't get defensive. I would say put it like, don't treat it so precious. Just keep an open mind, because like everyone is saying, everyone wants the same thing. They want the best product possible, or the best product possible.
I think we're sort of broken right now in terms of feedback as screenwriters. That's my observation over the last few years. There's this endemic, which is other screenwriters that if you say you wrote something, will want to give you notes. Hey, do you want notes? Can I give you notes? And mostly no. I don't want. If I wanted them, I would ask you, and here's why. Almost no one is well trained in giving feedback. Almost all feedback that you get is subjective to that person and driven a lot of times by insecurity at worst, and at best how they would write the script, which is not useful feedback. Useful feedback advances your vision for the screenplay. So the most success I have is in getting to know other writers really, really well and understanding their fundamentals. What do they think is a really good screenplay? Do we agree on structure? Do we agree on character motivate? Do we agree on the things that are important? And are they capable of giving feedback to advance your objective, not to tell you how they would tackle the same topic? And so I would say, I am saying, for me specifically, I think the most valuable feedback is the feedback you train yourself to give yourself by learning the industry, learning how to make movies, learning how to get a movie made, how to pitch it, how to raise money, understanding the relationship with a producer or production company when they show interest in your screenplay, how that will work. I think it's bad. I think it's counterproductive that we've all gotten into this, let me everybody give each other, using the term notes, it's really just feedback, and typically critical feedback. Most people are not equipped to do it, and it's just a lot of flack in the air. I think you need to set out with a particular vision for what you're writing, know what you're aiming for, and develop some internal compass for the ability to decide if you got there or not, and then try to close the gap with the next screenplay. That's my take. I know it's different, but I've been thinking a lot about this year. That's how it works for me.
100%. I mean, I have to back up on Jason, because just being in the industry, I mean, there's no second chances. You have to know. You have to know the structure. You have to know how things are built and what they're going to do visually on the screen and how to relate to those industry players. Okay, and in doing that, knowing, you know, what you're writing is, how that's going to affect budget, how it's going to affect, you know, and every little thing, you know, what the actors are going to want, you know, when they're reading that script, what the producers are looking for when they read that script. And you should know when you're reading it, go, in your soul, body and soul, there's something wrong here. I can feel that there's something wrong here because you've worked on your craft, you've studied it, and you've written to the point where you understand how it's supposed to flow, how it's supposed to go. It may not be 100% because you're going to get that feedback again from the producers and from the directors and everything, but you have to get to that point where you're so understanding of the process and the craft itself that you can recognize in your own writing when you miss the mark, okay? It's really important because when you hand that script to the producer, if it's only in a draft form, they're gonna go, why did I hire you? You know, they're gonna have expectations. So you have to self-govern, like Jason said.
And you can't, I'm sorry, I don't want to turn this horse into paste, but you can't crowdsource a great screenplay. It's just never fucking happened, ever, in the history of writing. And that's really what this turns into when you share it around and everyone's giving notes. It's confusing. And if you're really going for it in a screenplay, first, if you've really trained and you understand how a screenplay operates, how it works for the audience and the end result, and you really go for it, some people aren't going to get it. That's good feedback. Some people aren't going to get where you're going for. That's okay. You've really been specific and you dived deep.
Look at David Lynch.
Did you ever,
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine David Lynch walking around going like, hey, what do you think about Inland Empire?
Wes Anderson stuff.
I mean, you know, you don't have to be David Lynch to have that perspective, but I think you're exactly right. It's like, you have a vision. Do you know some people who know you intimately enough and that love you and care about you and are skillful and can tell you, I understand where you're trying to go with this because I know you well enough. And I think this part might help you get to your goal. That's the only feedback I give. And if I don't know somebody well enough, I'll just tell them I don't know you well enough. I can't give you, all I'll be able to tell you is how I would do it, which is, who gives a shit? I'm not writing.
do you ever collaborate on screen? Like
I do, yeah. The feature that we have here is,
three screenwriters and we.
yeah, the feature I have here is I wrote with a partner.
Yeah, yeah, so that, to me, is the best feedback, right, because you're all serving a vision, hopefully the same vision. And, you know, there should be no fear of what they're, you know, what they're telling you is to make it that part. You're all in it. It's like being in a band, right? And then eventually you break up because you want to take but that's
You're gonna collaborate with somebody who's at your skill level, who you're
Oh, yeah.
comfortable with, you know, who you really, you know, are simpatico.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to
Yeah.
collaborate with you on it.
Oh, no, I'm not saying. No, I'm just like, I've seen collaborations fail because
Yeah.
they just don't have
It
that
has to be
connection.
yeah, it has to be you know,
Listen to this
Go
guy.
ahead.
10 years ago, I came to my first indie gathering, and he sat at the award ceremony. He was on the front row, and I was all the way in the back. And they went like 3 years or 4 years in a row, winning Best Ohio Film, and he was so kind to me whenever I went to the front to get my little medals or whatever. And so he's dropped these two people, I've known them for a long time now, and Shane a little bit longer. They're dropping pearls. Listen to them. They know what they're talking about.
You just don't jerk yourself off, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's really hard to not do. I mean, writing is scary. I'm afraid all the time it will suck. You asked about mistakes. I'll tell you, the mistake I live every day is demanding listening to the voice in my head that says, this has to be extraordinary. You can't write it down unless it's extraordinary. And so the feature I'm writing right now, I'm writing at like 4 lines a fucking day. Because of that, and I just cannot get through it. But I did read a quote, maybe this will inspire you the way it did me. I read somebody say, everything that you want is behind 50 hours of embarrassment. And I went, oh, so there's something on the other side? Okay, I can do 50 hours of embarrassment. Think of that.
Isn't it that battle between like getting it done and getting it perfect, or getting it done well and getting it that, we're always battling, trying to make it perfect.
Getting it done is important. You should just always say to yourself, your first draft is gonna be shit. It's in the rewrites and the development of it afterwards that you can, I look at it as the first draft is like your sketch. And then as you're rewriting it, that's you're painting it, you're giving it color, you're giving it more depth.
When I took a writing workshop, because I didn't have enough money to go to college, so I took a screenwriting workshop, and he gave us 3 rules at the end of the experience, and he said, you gotta reject rejection, don't get it right, get it written, and let's see if I can remember the third. They used to have them memorized, and seat of the pants to the seat of the chair. And if you can remember those rules, those are the, like on the first draft especially, you'll be okay. I think you'll be okay.
And a lot of people, like, it can take years to write one screenplay. It could take a week to write one screenplay. It really just depends on the screenplay and the person, and like, so it doesn't have to be like this daunting, like, month-long process. It can literally be done in a week if you work hard enough. So, like my first screenplay, I wrote it in less than 2 weeks, the first draft. So, I'm not sure other people have done that too, but yeah, it doesn't have to be this like really timely thing. You just have to do the work.
You know, we all know how important it is to have a routine, and we all know you're supposed to be writing every day for 10 hours a day. We all know that, but none of us ever do. So what are some of the other routines, other than spending every day writing? What are some of the other routines that you might use to sort of help motivate you, keep you going, that you think improves your writing?
As weird as it sounds, I'll sometimes look out for really bad movies and watch them, because you listen to the dialogue or how everything's staged and paced, like watch something like The Room or Birdemic, and like they're entertaining movies, but from a writing perspective, they could use a bit of work to be nice. And you listen to bad movies and you go, oh, these are things I need to avoid when I'm writing my own things. When you're like, I'm so sad, my best friend who I've known for 10 years. Like, you hear people talk like that and you're like, oh wait, that doesn't sound natural at all. And that kind of gives you a frame of reference when you're looking at your script. Am I saying any of that? And you're like, okay, no, I'm not. Great.
You know, I think a good routine or a good habit to get into is when you get an idea, write it down right away. What I like to do, you know, some of my best ideas that I've had have come in dreams, and I don't know about you, but you know, if I wait to take notes when I wake up in the morning, it's gone. So I used to keep a voice recorder by my bed. Now it's all in our phones now. So if you have an idea, take notes, because if you don't, it's going to be gone, and that's one of the things. We should all be writing down all of our ideas at all times, because I feel like it's a creative industry where we all are here because we want to tell stories, and we just need to be true to ourselves and tell the stories that we want to tell.
My routine is, not that everybody has to do what I'm doing, but I get up about 4 o'clock in the morning because I live with my mom, my dad, and my aunt, and that's the quietest time in the house. And I write 2 to 3 hours, or like 4 to 5 pages, whichever comes first. And then I'll take a break, I'll eat breakfast, I'll take a nap, work on my second project for and work 2 or 3 hours or a couple of pages, whichever comes first. And then I'll not write anymore till the nighttime when they've all gone to bed around 9 o'clock. And I'll start writing for another 2 or 3 hours. And it's just because that's what works for me. And I also say I drink coffee. I probably drink too much coffee, but that's what I say. Yeah, I turn caffeine into words.
I think you have to make a promise to yourself. Those are the only ones we keep, the promises we make. I think you have to make a promise to yourself. That helps you get discipline. So my promise to myself is I'll read every day and I'll write every day. And I don't have a time on it or a quantity. I'm hoping to build to that because right now, like I said, I'm squeezing blood out of a turnip. But that helps. And it also helps me to have 2 projects at the same time. So when I really stall out on one, I can go over to the other one, switch gears, get a mental reset. Inevitably, that helps me crack whatever I was trying to crack. So there's a couple things that work for me.
And I think everyone's going to have what works for them is going to be different for everyone. So to kind of piggyback off Jason, for me, my routine and what's working for me is just the mindset of I'm not going to give up, because as much as I would love to live and breathe film and writing and have that be my life, I have a full-time job, there's other stressors in life that happen, so, I'm not able to do this full-time, and it could be very easy to just, disappear into life and, not write anymore, or not follow my dreams anymore, and I'm not going to do that, and I think that's a good mindset for everyone to have, is to just make sure that no matter how stressful life gets, to just keep at it, because that's the only way you're going to succeed.
I find sometimes it also helps set internal deadlines. Like, I like going to festivals and doing stuff. So I know, okay, this time, I've enjoyed this film festival. I went to Austin Revolution, and it's been a fun time going there. So I'm like, I know I need something to be done by December, whether it be a short or a feature, so I can go to this festival again. And that helps a lot as like an internal motivator to write something down and knowing that you need to get done.
Secret life hack as a festival director: you don't actually have to have a project in the festival to go to the festival.
Right.
You can totally just go and hang out and network.
Yeah.
And just to have sometimes some kind of a reward, like, okay, I'm gonna punch through for the next 2 weeks because then we're going on vacation. My deadline is, I'm gonna have this first draft done before we go on vacation, or before I take off for this week.
Wish we were just did that.
Yeah.
I finished the draft right before coming out here.
What about, Shane, when you wake up and you listen to your voice, and are there any strange voices?
I got away from doing that, because I will say there was one time where I woke up the next morning and I played the voice back, and it was literally, and I don't even remember recording, it was literally just me going, "There's people in the wall." And it scared the shit out of me. I'm like, we're just going to write down.
Was it your voice?
It was my voice, luckily.
So you gotta write that in something. You gotta put
contacts. I'm like, tell me more. Like, I need more information.
Maybe you need to write that.
I didn't write it.
What about shorts versus features? Which do you prefer to do? Does it matter? Do you approach writing any different?
So for me, since I've written a handful of shorts and features, I think of shorts more as a moment, and then what comes before, what comes after. So like, Don't Touch That Dial is a suspense thriller basically based on the process of a radio DJ and his producer. They're at the radio station, they get a call from somebody. Hey, so a guy in a hockey mask just killed my boyfriend and I'm out in the forest, what do I do? And that's the moment, so now I had to think what's before, what's after, and write. If it was a feature, that's kind of where everyone's talking about the outline. You still have your moment somewhere, but you need a lot more build-up and payoff to that moment. With shorts, you can be moment, beginning, ending, done.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. If it's, You know, I should say, yes, even for a short script, you should outline it and everything, but I'm definitely, if it's a feature, I have to outline it, otherwise I'm gonna get lost in everything. I am kind of guilty of, if it's a short, I don't always outline it, because the way that I write scenes is I'm such a big movie lover, I basically just close my eyes and try to picture it as a movie already made in my head, and then do my best to translate that from my brain to paper. So sometimes with shorts, if it's like a 10-page short, I don't even outline it, I'm just already watching the whole thing in my head, and I'm just like, all right, let's just word vomit this onto final drafts.
Yeah.
I wrote, me and my writing partner, was not able to come, Missy Goodman, we did a short comedy for like a 48-hour writing contest, and it was called Back on Top. And the feedback we got was, what it is, I don't remember the term, but it goes set up, payoff. And it was really short. And it was about an egomaniacal manager who we were inspired by Vince Vaughn at the time, and as an actor who took himself too seriously, who was a little washed up. We based him on Russell Crowe, and because Russell was going at the time, it was a big thing. He had thrown a phone at a clerk in New York. So we didn't really outline that. We just kind of wrote it, and but that doesn't mean we still don't rewrite. You know, we didn't have a lot of time to do it, but shorts typically less outlining for me. Not that we don't do it, because we'd be totally lost if we didn't, but definitely for features, I would say more of an outlining process for us.
Being a horror writer, I prefer writing features. I like tension building and character building and character depth. So I feel like in shorts it's a little bit more difficult to really get that grainy and ingrained into the character's psyche. What's really helpful is, and it's something that I sometimes do for features and for shorts, is I write stories of that character when they're in high school, when they're younger, or things that have happened to them that have led to their current state. It doesn't get into the screenplay, but it helps you write for that character. So yes, in terms of like preference, I really like writing features that are just because you can have that tension, you can have that character arc
Why do you write horror? What is it about it that's so appealing?
You can do anything for it. It can be so many different things, and it can be low budget, high budget. It can be happy, sad. It can go as dark as you want, as light as you want. A lot of people say that horror is political. You can prey on people's worst fears, your own worst fears, and your reality of how you grew up and your trauma. You can bring it to life in horror, which is really cool.
Anybody else want to weigh in?
Personally, I think horror and comedy are sort of like two sides of the same coin. And when I started writing, it was more like action comedy and goofier stuff, but I think I enjoy writing horror because it's a lot of the same dynamics of comedy, just for a different planned result. So comedy is more set up, payoff is supposed to make you laugh. Horror is set up, make it scream, or scare them in some way. So I think it's sort of interesting to explore that dynamic. And then, as you were talking about earlier, all the, like, first of all, practicality. It can be done very cheap if it's done well, but also there's a lot of room for exploring political themes, exploring, your own personal emotions, insecurities, and there's a lot of freedom that you can't get from, say, a drama or other genres.
I think it's the most honest storytelling, that, for me personally, that's why I'm attracted to it. I think it's primal, and the stuff I'm interested in is powerless people forced to try to make a decision or to take power. I'm interested in Pyrrhic victories. Like that for me is real humanity, and so that's why it's interesting for me. Drama, I think, is a lot of navel-gazing. For me.
I think there's just so many subgenres within horror, and I think that's really appealing. And I think not necessarily from a storytelling standpoint, but just as like indie filmmakers, I think horror is the only, and this is just my opinion, I think horror is like the only genre that you can set out to make like a serious slasher movie, and maybe the final product comes out a little more campy than you want it to, but there's still an audience for that.
Mm-hmm.
If you try to make a drama and it doesn't translate, that's it for your film.
Mm-hmm.
In horror, you still have a market for that film because the audience is just so wide. And also, just from a filmmaking standpoint, the community of indie horror is just such a beautiful thing and is so supportive. And it's always so big and so small at the same time, where you travel to different festivals or work on different films, across the country, and you see people that you maybe haven't seen in 6 months, and you just pick back up like your best friends because they're there to support you and you're there to support them. So I just think there's something kind of beautiful about that.
I don't really write horror, but I would say that you can, in any genre, use horrific elements or horror themes to like you would say, paint your shade, paint color and bring it in. I certainly like what everybody has to say about it, because what you say is just borne out with this festival in particular. Everybody's here to support everybody, and I like that. And even though my specialty is not horror, anytime I try to write a horror script, it comes out as suspense or thriller, actually. But I have immense respect for the horror community and people who do it well, because for me it's so hard.
Is there anything cathartic about writing horror? I mean, you can't chop up that annoying neighbor, but you can sit down and write a script.
I mean, you
And
can.
it's like, you sort of like get that out, and this is what I would do.
It's supposed to be percussions.
Should we, I know we don't have a ton, should we
Some
see if the
people like
audience has
throwing
questions?
that.
Yeah, I'm just jump in whenever there's a break.
What do you guys want to know? Enough about us.
Yeah.
For God's sake.
Have any of you attempted to write a TV pilot before? Any advice on that process that might be useful for someone at the start of their career? Other than don't do it.
It's a different structure,
Yeah.
it's sometimes 5 acts, sometimes 6 act. I mean, it depends on how long your pilot is, but I thought it was a blast. It was really fun, writing, commercial cliffhangers at the end of each scene, at the end of each act, and yeah, try it, stretch.
The thing with television is that, you're writing over, like, let's say just 8 episodes. So instead of 100 pages, you're writing, 60 times 8, okay? So you have to, the pilot is the start of your series. You have to really have an idea of what that series is. You have to go through the development process and understand who your characters are, when are they coming, and develop what it is before you write the pilot, okay? Because you're eventually going to pitch that pilot. And when you're pitching the pilot to an industry person, they're going to want to know, well, where is this going? Okay, out of, what's your first season? Where are your arcs going to be? Where are your arcs per character? Where are your arcs in the series? Where are your arcs in the episodes? So you have to have some idea when you're writing that pilot, where your characters are going to eventually be going, and setting up things that are going to eventually be coming out in further episodes, and making that, locking people into that pilot, wanting them wanting
Want
to
more.
more,
Yeah.
okay? So a pilot isn't just a standalone thing, it's the start of something
The
else.
first act, yeah.
Exactly.
So it comes back to structure, right? I mean, we're just gonna run out of gas.
I'm always gonna come back to structure.
Yeah, because that lens, I guess.
But yeah, it's real important. I've written three series, so.
I'm drafting something right now, and
Yeah.
you just hit me with like, well, I'm like, like kind of questions, like, so that's
I
good.
think the term is like show Bible, I think, or
Yeah.
where you have, your whole thing where it's like every character listing, every major arc they go through. Try to have that down when you have your pilot.
I would recommend looking at the Stranger Things
A
Bible.
lot of people recommend, yeah,
It's all
Montauk or whatever it's
Bible.
called recently.
There are, and you have to remember that I think they pushed that for like almost 10 years, that show.
It was originally going to be an adaptation too, so it's something totally
Yeah,
different.
it took place in New York, so a lot had changed,
Yeah.
obviously, and now it's one of the biggest shows in the TV industry, so, their Bible is fantastic.
At least
I
the
reference it
it's-
a lot when I make
it's good.
English jokes.
The positive thing about television is where the writer has the most clout. If you move through, so.
Any more? How about everybody just give some kind of advice, like if you want to encourage somebody to get out there and do their dreams, what would you tell them?
Just do it. Just start writing. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for permission, because if you're waiting for someone to come to you and say, okay, it's okay to do this, you're gonna be waiting a long time.
My advice would be that writing is not always physically sitting down writing in final draft. 90% of the time, it's you taking long showers, thinking about your characters, it's exploring on Google Maps where your characters live, their house, their clothing, what kind of person they are, what kind of music do they listen to, building playlists. Like, it's not just about physically writing. It is everything surrounding that and building your craft. So, and don't be hard on yourself one day you don't write. If you thought about it or if it was on your mind, like it's still considered writing. You're writing it in your head. You're writing the story. You're creating the story.
I would say, in terms of like kind of specific advice, don't be afraid to have something on in the background to help you like set the mood for what you're writing. So like if you're stuck on like writing a horror feature about vampires, don't be afraid to like turn on Dracula in the background just to like even just give you visual inspiration, just give you background noise, something to set the mood. And sometimes that helps. Like when I wrote my superhero feature, I had episodes of Arrow playing in the background. So I'm like, oh, kind of, sets the mood for me. And I don't think I stole anything from Arrow while writing it, but at the very least, it kind of put me in a mood to be like, okay, superhero story, I'm going to take a break for a second. Okay, Oliver Queen is shooting someone with an arrow. Okay, back to writing. I feel like that helps a lot.
I'm gonna sound like a generic motivational poster here, but do what makes you happy. I mean, you're all here because you're writers, so writing makes you happy. So just don't lose that joy in it, and just be true to yourself and true to your story.
I think to be happy, you have to know why you're doing it. So I would say I support Shane's point, and I'd say know your why wherever you are. I mean, I assume everyone in here has already started writing, but if you haven't, or if you've been writing a long time, I think it's really essential to know why you're doing it, because otherwise you're running a race without a finish line, and that's exhausting. So I think whatever it is, the current project, if it's just, hey, I've never written a feature, I'd like to write a feature screenplay, that'll provide the framework for how to go about doing it in a satisfying way. But interrogate yourself a little bit, ask why. I want to feel important, that's a real motivation. Like, we're an indie, ego is the currency, nobody has any money. But be honest with yourself, right? Like, be honest, that's my goal. Well, that will help you decide what to write, where to submit it, so you can feel important. So know why, I think, has helped me.
One piece of advice I can give is be your own advocate. always. Nobody's gonna be knocking on your door. You know, you're gonna have to get out of your cave once in a while, like you are here, and promote yourself and get out there and take those risks. Because you never know, that risk may be somebody's interest in your script, but they have an idea they want to write and they'll pay you to do it, or collaborate with you on a bigger project. So, be your own advocate.
And don't be intimidated by failure. You're gonna fail. It's life. Fail upwards. Learn and keep going.
How about if we do this, if we have another panel next year, and if I'm here next year, how about all of you come back, have something that you've written between now and that time, and just share with us what you did, and why you did it, and how you feel about it, and what you plan to do with it, and put some kind of, something that you've written into action. All right, we'll do that next year?
Yeah.
You will be great.
Yeah, get out there and write some.
Good luck, you guys.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.